In the plant crafter, there's a lot of different materials that you need to get in order to build the different things you build. And one of those is sulfur. Now, there are some items you're going to build one time, like the Jetpack Tier 2, where you need sulfur for that. But then there are things like the Biolab Tier 2, which you may be fine with one, you may want to build multiple ones. And then the items like fertilizer, explosive powder, and mutagen that you need sulfur for, so you need a lot of it. So where do you get sulfur? Well, just like most other items, you can get it through different crates. Depending, of course, on your terraformation index is how likely it will spawn in when you first open the crate. But you can get a few pieces of sulfur this way at the beginning, which should get you through the basic one-time build items. But you can also find sulfur in the osmium caves, which makes it useful. However, you've got to wait until the caves are no longer blocked by ice. But if you're watching this, you're either watching because you want to know where to find the first few pieces of sulfur, which I've already mentioned what you can do for that, or you want to know where you can find a lot of sulfur, especially for the long term. And that is where the sulfur fields biome comes into play. This is the place where you can come to mine sulfur, as well as pick up some of it off of the ground. The sulfur fields are a great place to get a lot of sulfur. However, there is a caveat. Most pathways to the sulfur fields are blocked by ice, just like the osmium caves. So the steep hill wreck has an entrance to an osmium cave next to it. And this cave connects not only to the sulfur fields, but it also connects to the zeolite cave, which is blocked by more ice. So you're still going to be relying on picking up a few pieces of sulfur from some other places before you really can get through these caves to get to these sulfur fields. You can also reach the sulfur fields through an opening in the iridium mine. But again, this is blocked by ice, the same as the osmium cave. So until the ice melts enough, that's not going to be a usable pathway. So I'm standing here on a pillar outside the iridium mine. You can see the falling sand above the large entrance over there, and there's the little bit of side openings over there. You can see the Dunes Desert wreck right there. And what I'm going to do is go along the wall here, just as if I was going to, say, the Super Alloy Cave. And just up ahead on the left is a pathway through the cliff that lets us get into the sulfur fields. You may miss this pathway if you're not looking for it, because it does kind of round back a bit coming from that direction. But once you go through this path, you'll be right into the sulfur fields and ready to start mining some sulfur. Now, the sulfur fields are really no different than the aluminium fields in that this is a large biome, and you can pretty much place a tier 1 or tier 2 ore extractor anywhere in this area and mine sulfur as the primary resource. So just like the aluminum, we have an entire biome area available for sulfur, which is why we don't really need any other locations or have any other locations where we can mine sulfur. So there you go. That's how you can get sulfur in the game. However, I do want to point out a couple of issues. First issue is I noticed the other day that there is a marking for a sulfur location over here in the Boulder Desert. This is not actually a sulfur cave. It's not an osmium cave. It's technically a pulsar quartz cave because that's the highest tier ingredient you can get there. However, there is some osmium there and there's some sulfur there. The real trick is none of it's mineable at that location, which kind of defeats the point of saying that's a sulfur resource, because why would you not say some of the other osmium caves are also a sulfur resource, since you can get sulfur there as well. Now, the second problem is I don't know why it got set this way, because I have never in all the time I have played the game experienced this, but somewhere on one page on the wiki it says that if you place a tier 1 ore extractor down in an osmium cave, it will provide sulfur. And that's not true. It actually is just going to provide iron, because a tier 1 ore extractor is not high level enough to mine the osmium. If you place down a tier 2 ore extractor, it's just going to mine the osmium instead. So as you can see here, this is a tier 1 ore extractor that I have in an osmium cave that's been sitting here for a little while producing. It's not producing sulfur. That's because it produces iron as its primary resource, and then like any place you place down a tier 1 or tier 2 ore extractor, it's always going to produce out of the 5 basic materials as well. So again, I don't know why it's mentioned in this one spot on the wiki that you can mine sulfur with a tier 1 ore extractor in osmium caves, because it doesn't work that way. This is just like with the aluminium fields. There's no other place in the game you're going to place down an extractor and mine aluminum. So there you go. That's how you get sulfur. Just find the sulfur fields, whichever pathway you want to take. Set up 1, 2, 15 ore extractors and be happy. Oh, and if this video helped you out, be sure to hit that thumbs up and leave me a comment about what helped you out in the video.